missing someone.
Hey, welcome to the EchoCast. I am Bon Diesel, and I am on my own today. We've had a couple great guests in the last month or so. It's been awesome. This week it's just going to be me, and then the next 2 weeks will feature Deep Fried Dave and a deep dive into Division 1 and possible Division 2 lore and story. So be on the lookout for that. This would be episode 22. Amazing. Can't believe it's happening. I appreciate you guys so much. The switch to iTunes/Anchor has been really awesome. I'm gonna kind of ride Anchor as my main site moving forward. SoundCloud, I have a great following. I'm gonna keep posting there. But Anchor links you to iTunes. It also links to a few other places. And if you have any desire to support the podcast, support my content in general, Anchor actually allows you to essentially, like Patreon or even Twitch, you can sign up to be a supporter. Check it out on my Anchor link. If you don't want to, that is 1000% okay. Long story short, just the more I can justify my time doing this stuff, the more stuff I can do. So, from there, I will transition to content updates. So, starting last week, I started doing fewer streams. I was trying to do 5 streams a week. That's just not sustainable currently. I've realized that, and so far it's looked this way, that if I can do fewer longer streams, so like 4 4-hour streams instead of 5 2-hour streams, it's just better in general for you guys. For me, it's just a more satisfying experience, and I'm really enjoying it. I think that's what I'm going to ride with for now. I'm sure as things change, maybe I'll update and do different stuff, but that's the plan for now. 3 to 4 hour streams a week, and I'll always post those schedules. I'm also going to try to make at least one of them last a little bit longer, until 10 or 11 at night, just because I realize that there's people in Central and Western time that are like still at work when I'm streaming. So be on the lookout for those changes. I would like to do a giveaway soon. I have no idea what to give away, so I'm open to suggestions. If you want something Division related, if you want something gaming related, maybe just a gift card, I don't know. It's up to you guys. I'm happy to take suggestions. Don't forget that I do have the clip of the month on my stream, where whatever clip has the most views at the end of every month will get a little bonus. $20 gift card or a Bon Diesel merchandise item. So make sure to check that out when you're on my Twitch channel. And the last thing is the 30-day, 31-day August video challenge obviously didn't go all the way. I just basically couldn't handle it time-wise. But we got some good videos out. We got some good stuff going. And honestly, I feel pretty good about how it went. The only thing is that it just didn't finish. So I put out a video this last week about the most recent Gamescom Division 2 trailer. I was able to do a little breakdown on that, and it seemed to be received very well. I'm also going to be doing the Twitter concept art or screenshot breakdowns, where I post a new screenshot or concept art, and then I zoom in on various things just to point them out, maybe ask questions, see what you guys think about it. So that's what I have for content updates right now. We'll have more stuff in the future. State of the game recap. So I'm going to keep the recap relatively quick, and then in the Division news, maybe go a little deeper into some of the issues that cropped up during the state of game and even before at Gamescom. So they talked about 1.8.3, it being released. As far as we know, there's no big issues, like bug-wise. There was very quickly, I saw some chatter about their the immunizer not working anymore against Pred, but now I've seen repeated people saying that that's not true, and that the immunizer is still working fine. So I'm going to continue believing that. The changes seem to be good. The main complaint I've kind of seen is just some issues with Striker, and I will kind of elaborate on that in a little bit, in solo play more than anything. They talked about the shield, nothing really big with it, but they did extend the survival free week for another few days because they did have some issues on that first day of the shield / survival. Including myself, I wasn't able to do anything because they shut down the survival queues to fix some stuff. And then they went pretty deep into the pre-order situation. Some information got leaked about those, and then it just got posted officially on a bunch of pages and pretty much everywhere, and people are starting to do their pre-orders. They talked about the different editions. I'm not really going to go into that. I suggest looking up what editions are available in your region and country and so. They talked about the early access, the 3 days early on certain editions to the game in general, and then the 7-day early access with the year one pass to the DLCs. That will be free for everyone. So they talked about the beta. They clarified that there's going to be a private beta and then a closed beta. The private beta is with the pre-orders. The closed beta is with the free, where you could just sign up on their website. And if I had to guess, to throw in my own idea, is that they'll probably have an open beta right before the game comes out as well. But we'll see. And then the last thing they clarified was some of the stuff with this, the stash, and how the Phoenix edition or the Ultimate or whatever it is gonna get more spaces in the stash. So I'll keep my opinions for the next portion here. But basically they tried to reiterate that they remember the problems and the lessons they learned with the small cache size or the stash in Division 1, where I believe it was only 50 spaces. Now it's 150. And our backpacks are significantly larger as well. So so I'll get deeper into that, but basically for me, they didn't give us exact details. That is something that'd be nice just to quell some fears, but I think they gave us enough information for now to relax a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm hopeful. So that said, into Division news. So the first thing I'll quickly mention is that there's a few new articles, some interviews with Garrity, some interviews with Manny. He's one of the guys that works at Ubisoft, talking about DC, how it's going to have different 6 distinct districts. They talked a little bit about, I believe it's Roosevelt Island, which is currently not, I believe, in the map. So I suspect that's going to be one of the expansions, which is super exciting because that gives me some inclination that we may have even more expansions that expand the map this time. And the base map already appears to be larger than the original game, and then they're even seemingly going to expand on that. We don't know all those details yet, so I won't get too far ahead of myself, but it does seem pretty dang exciting. The next thing is 1.8.3 impressions. So kind of like I mentioned quickly, the biggest downside seems to be that the only way you can solo Rogue in DZ at this point is to do the Nomad set. I would argue in some ways that yeah, sure, that's the point. Nomad's finally behaving the way it was supposed to. At the same time, for people who like to do solo PvP, try to do 1v server and stuff, obviously that experience is essentially ruined. I mean, obviously my viewpoint on it is kind of skewed maybe, and I don't know. I don't know 100% how to feel about it, because that's not really a part of my game, but I still feel like it's important to respect the people who do enjoy that part of the game. So I'm not expecting any giant changes. I will say that at 12:30 at night on a Friday evening, I saw Terry Spear engaging with someone who that's their primary method of play in this game, and having a nice conversation with them and trying to figure out what they think and stuff like that. I'm not gonna go out and say that I think there's gonna be any big changes before Division 2 comes out. I suspect 1.8.3 was gonna be the last major patch, but I could be wrong, and hopefully I am. Other than that, it seems like overall things are fine. You know, it's everyone's kind of feeling things out. I'm seeing people using hexo builds, ninja builds, straight hybrid builds of 3 and 3. It seems like everyone's kind of poking at it and seeing what the meta is. I've seen a decent amount of complaints about pred and stuff like that. But at the very least, it looks like people are experimenting. So I'm kind of curious to see where that goes long run. And yeah, we'll have to see. I maybe even get may get a little crazy and jump on in there myself. Okay, so what's probably going to be the longest part of this podcast this week is going to be talking about the pre-order controversy and all of the what I would call hubbub about it. So if you pay attention to my Twitter, bless you, you're a very patient person then, you'll see that I kind of wasn't afraid to jump in and kind of throw my opinions to some people with much larger followings than me. Subsequently, I also deleted a lot of those tweets because I still don't not mean anything I said, but probably worded things ways I shouldn't have, and calling out some people's credibility and stuff. So that's unnecessary and pretty immature. That said, that still doesn't change the fact that I think that some people are passionate and simply overreacted without waiting for enough information. And I think some people simply just wanted attention. I don't really know who is who at this point. I kind of don't really care anymore. All I'll say is that when new information comes out, please remember that few people have purely unbiased reasons for their opinions and for things that they may say or do, including myself. Just take things with a dose of skepticism from the devs, from the official game, from big streamers, from small streamers, from big content creators to small content creators. Just make sure to maybe have your own opinions, and more than anything, I just kind of beg people to wait until you have maybe not the whole story. The whole story might not be something we have for Division 2 for a while, simply because they aren't going to give us all of the information right now. But I do at least encourage people to not just jump to conclusions. You need to remember that there's people who are going to be 100% for the game no matter what they say or do. There's people who consider me in that boat, and while I understand that, I think that they're mistaken. The people who tend to think that, I think, don't pay attention to any of my content. They just see that I'm a star player and assume I'm a shill. That's cool, whatever, it is what it is. At this point, I'm starting to get over it. That said, there's also people, and I would say this is a relatively large number, who are going to be negative about this game and the sequel no matter what they say or do. So I'm sure some of our favorite creators are going to come out with some really negative and some very sensationalized videos in the next 1 to 6 weeks, and I just caution people to just simply believe anything that various people will say. Because don't forget that a lot of these people it's slow. They're a little bored right now. And there's many reasons for people to think and say things that they may think and say. So I'll just leave it there. Moving on to the actual issues that came up. So the main one is the stash. I'm going to talk about that last. The other issues I saw people talking about in a smaller way, I saw people talking about like the early access, and some particular people were extremely upset about the 3 days early access to the game. In a game like Battlefield and stuff like that, where day 1 players are mixed right in with day 50, or in this case day 3 players, I get it. I've never seen a ton of kickback on it with EA and other companies that do it, but that is a situation where I get it. Someone could be multiple levels ahead, you're going to get thrown into the same lobbies with them, and they're simply just going to kick your ass for a few days until you can recover and catch up. I just don't think it's as big of an issue with a game like The Division, especially if the Division 2 leveling and gating system is set up even remotely like this one. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I know that the world tiers and stuff didn't exist when the game came out. I remember that. But I still just don't think... I think that the only people who are going to get that far ahead of people in 3 days are probably the same people who are going to get ahead of anyone anyways. The names I saw that were so upset about it are the same people who are going to probably stream it 12 hours a day for the first 2 weeks. And so whether or not they got it 3 days early, they were still just going to they were going to kick everyone's butt. For the average person, to the 99.9% of players that play the game, the 3 days will be a bit of a boost, but I would be willing to bet that a super significant number of those people won't even finish the story by the time that everyone else gets access to the game. For me personally, it's kind of a non-factor. The 7 days early on the DLC is a little different for the Year 1 Pass people. But when they addressed it on the state of the game, they gave some mild impression that there will not be like a gear advantage to having that you'll just get to touch the content early, but not necessarily be geared up more than the other people. What that means, whether that's true, they weren't super clear on it. I suspect because they probably don't even know themselves entirely. But I don't think that's really where... I think people can chill a bit about that. I know they won't. I know specific people definitely aren't going to, but that is what it is. The beta was another issue I saw some people have about. I think that there was some confusion that people didn't realize that the free beta they signed up for around E3 and still can will be a closed beta. The pre-order bonuses talk about a private beta, and they clarified on State of the Game that there will be a private beta and then that closed beta. And that there are two separate deals. Now, if you're in the private, that you should be in the closed as well. So it's just funny because, I saw a lot of, people rip roaring about, oh, you have to pay now to play the beta. No, you don't. You don't have to. If you want to pre-order, which I assume a lot of people will, then you do that. You pre-order and you get to play the beta probably a week earlier. If you don't want to pay and you want to wait it out and check it out without paying a penny, sign up for that closed beta. I'm willing to bet that almost everyone who signs up for that is going to get into it because it's essentially free advertising. And then I wouldn't even be surprised if there's an open beta right before the game comes out that will have you can just download it and play it. And so I think that the beta is a complete non-starter issue and that people can kind of chill out. I saw a little bit of stuff about the different editions of the pre-orders you can get. It does suck that outside of the North America or the Americas region, the DZ that has the statue does not have the Year 1 Pass. I'm assuming that there's some regional reason for that and that they aren't just screwing over people for the fun of it. I understand it's a fairly popular thing for people to think that that's the motivation behind a lot of decisions. At the end of the day, you don't make as much money when you screw people over like that. So I don't believe that's the reason that they aren't including the Year 1 Pass. I kind of assume there's some really dumb laws or rules or regulations. Maybe I don't get it. Maybe I'm too kind to them. I don't know, but that is a bummer. So I can agree that sucks. And that would be nice if there was some clear explanation of why there was a difference. So last, but definitely not least, was the stash conversation. So there is this inclination that the Ultimate Edition, I believe, and the Phoenix, which comes with the Ultimate, will have a larger stash size, according to the marketing. So I get both sides. I get that that's upsetting to people on face value. My issue is that there was some really emotional reaction to it. by large and small. And there was a reaction to it in the sense of, no matter how this is set up, you shouldn't touch this. No matter, even if it's completely okay, even if the way it's done is quote unquote good. I guess maybe I'm just not, I don't have a ton of history in RPG games, so I guess I just don't get it. But to me, especially after State of the Game, the impression I'm getting is that we'll have just as much, if not more, storage from a satisfaction point of view as we do currently in Division 1, and that edition is just going to have a little extra. You know, I really hate the way that they've done some of the wording with it by saying it's like the most dedicated players and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. But I don't think it's as simple as just being, no matter how they do this, it's bad. I do get the idea that if, say, everyone gets 150 spots like we currently have, and the people who pre-order only get like 5 more spots, the talk is that that's a rip-off for them. And that's fair. I can agree with that to a point. I think the argument is that they're not just getting that, they're getting a lot of other stuff as well for that extra money. The other argument is that if, say, we all get like 25 spots and people with the Ultimate Edition get 50 or 100, and then there's, you know, that's a problem too, right? Just judging by the way that the division has behaved in the past, I don't see that being the way they're going to do it. I'm assuming at this point, and from their discussion during State of the Game, it's a real bummer they couldn't give us exact numbers, but I suspect they're probably not even decided. And I'm not sure if they would tell us anyways. But I just don't, I personally think that there's a way for them to do that where it's going to be like, it's kind of dumb. Why would you do that? But whatever, it's fine. It doesn't make a big difference. The funny thing is I actually had explained before they had State of the Game, I said, well, if they do it in a way where you either get a couple extra spots in the pre-order or nothing, you can't expand it via microtransactions or anything like that, that's cool with me, whatever. It's like some people have the Defiler and some people don't. By the end game, it's probably not going to make a big difference. My issue was that if they actually did do it under microtransactions, it's like, well, that's cool that you can do that. That's nice. Except now it is kind of like it feels worse, right? So the way it appears is that this Ultimate Edition is going to be the only way to get the extra spots, and that you'll be able to upgrade to that edition at any time, but that they will not be doing microtransactions to increase your stash space, which just tells me it's probably going to be a pretty insignificant thing. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, of all of the issues that I've talked about, I definitely think the stash one is the one that's the most worthy of keeping an eye on, for sure. I still just don't believe that it deserved the amount of outrage it got, and I will assume everyone that was outraged about it had good intentions. But again, I just warn people to make sure that you consider everyone's motivations behind the things that they do and say, especially people who are making money off of those opinions and who need clicks and views. And that includes myself. I have never tried to fool anyone that I'm a huge fan of the game. I have a relatively close relationship with a few of the people involved with the game. I had the Star Player program I went on. I have a lot of thoughts about that, and I don't think that people should think I'm as biased because of that as they do. But I'm not going to talk about that. It doesn't need to be said. But at the end of the day, I've always tried to be pretty clear about my biases, and I will continue to be. But I really think that at the very least should give me some credibility to be able to express my opinions and have them taken seriously. That's up to you guys. We'll go from there. So for the speculation section, I'm going to move on. And speculation, I'm actually going to go pretty short on it. I'm going to kind of cover some of the stuff I did tweets on, where I showed a few of the new concept photos and kind of talked about them a little bit. So the ones of interest to me were they had one that was really cool, and if you look at it, you can find it on my Twitter and stuff like that. But it's on it's on a street. There's two agents in front of us. One's holding a crossbow with some kind of LMG on their back. It looks like an M240, but I could be wrong. And then there's another agent running with, you can't really tell what kind of guns they're carrying. It looks like maybe a shotgun and some kind of assault rifle. And there's a few cool things going on. So the one agent, you can see they have a drone on their back. It just looks sweet. The other one has a seeker mine and then some other object. I'm gonna guess it's some variant of the Hive. And so those are kind of neat. And they actually both have what looks like to be two different variants of the Hive. We know that there's going to be different variants. There's going to be one that like possibly repairs armor, that attacks the weak spots like we saw in the demo, stuff like that. What the other stuff that's cool in the scene is off in the distance there is in the street there's a cloud of green smoke, and coming out of that green smoke are three enemies. One's holding a shield and a pistol. The other one's holding some kind of assault rifle, and the third one that's staying up on a bus is holding a MP5K, which is a extremely compact version of the MP5. It's a gun I actually predicted in my gun video, my gun wish list, that I thought would be in the game, and I was hoping would be in the game. It may not be in our hands. We've seen that before, that there's guns the enemies use or attachments that we don't get to touch, but it's still cool to see. The neat thing is that these enemies are all wearing gas masks. And what's notable about that is I've been guessing for a while that there was going to be some kind of faction that would replace the cleaners. And I assumed that we would get some kind of faction that wouldn't just fight the normal way. You know, like essentially the rioters, Rikers, and LMB all fight the same way. They have guns, they approach, they move, they shoot at us. The cleaners are a little bit different, where they're tossing flame grenades, they're shooting flamethrowers at us. They have like a weird way of fighting compared to the other factions. I had a feeling we would get that with Division 2 from at least one faction, and it looks like we may have seen that. So there's a few things about that I think are interesting. The green smoke implies to me that there's going to be a chance that whenever you encounter these guys, they're going to have a unit that pops off a bunch of smoke around the entire battlefield that may or may not do something to us. I assume the point is that it would, and that their gas mask prevents it from hurting them. So I'm gonna guess it's gonna be some kind of like irritant, where if your character gets caught in it, you get like a flashbang effect or something like that. And that we may have to take our own precautions when we're fighting these enemies. The one with the shield and the gun is really interesting to me, because it looks like it's going to end up being kind of like one of the shotgunner classes, like the rush class, but we haven't had that before. We've had the axemen that have a shield with an axe, and we've had the LMB shotgunners, but they don't have like protection. And so I think the idea of a highly mobile unit with a light shield and a pistol will just be kind of a neat change to the way that plays out. So I'm really, really curious to learn more about this faction. Kind of had a feeling that we would have some kind of faction like this in the game, and I'm really curious to see what how they flesh out. The other thing in this screenshot to notice is on the right side of the screenshot one, there is a Kerman Coffee, so we know that franchise is returning, which is super cool. Above that is a sign or a flag that has 3 stars at the top, 2 red stripes horizontal, a white background, and it says DC is ours now. I'm gonna guess that is not the faction that we're seeing. That's not their markings. It may be the True Sons, but I think it very well may be a third faction that we don't know about yet. So be on the lookout for that. And then below that, we see these 2 blobby kind of objects that are in this green. It's the same color green as the gas that this new faction is in. And it's got basically an upside down anarchist or A symbol that looks like it's been stenciled. You see it in 2 spaces. You see it on a bus stop, and you see it on a road sign. And so I'm assuming that's going to be the marking of this new faction. So this screenshot I thought was really, really cool. I really enjoyed looking at it. Another one worth taking a peek at is one where there's a few agents walking near, I believe it's the Otagon building, and a few things to notice about it. So on the agents, again, you see, I believe it looks like a seeker mine. I think it's just an ACR, and there is a pump stockless shotgun. So it's like a sawed-off pump shotgun. Right now we have the double barrel shotguns that are the cutoff. That's your secondary, but this one appears to be a pump version, which would have more rounds in it than just the 2 shots. Just kind of a neat little detail, something that I bet we will likely see in the final game. The agent in front actually has these green kind of glowing things on their back. And my guess, and some other people's guesses when I posted this, is that that's going to be an alternative type of ammo for the chem launcher. So in the demo, we saw the chem launcher shoot the flammable gas that you would shoot it within some enemies and then fire into that gas, create a spark, and it would set all on fire, set all of the enemies within its range on fire. I suspect this is going to be a different variant because it's green, and a lot of people associate that currently with healing. I wouldn't be surprised if it has something to do with that. I think that the impression right now is that healing is actually going to be armor repair. That we so far we've seen no indication that there's actually quote unquote healing in the Division 2, but rather the armor repair that involves like the armor plating. I'm also going to throw it out and just guess that we probably won't have a lot of burst healing or repairing of the armor unless it's maybe a very specialized kind of gear set edition or something like that, but we'll have to see. Other things in here, in the main building that's on the corner to the left, above it is a big biohazard symbol, and within it there's some markings. It's hard to tell, is it graffiti, is it not? It kind of looks like a skull to me if you look at it really closely. It looks like, or a gas mask, so it very well could be that gas faction we've seen. That could be one of the ways that they let people know they're around, by defacing those biohazard symbols. Or maybe it could be a whole different faction or enemy entirely. We don't know that yet. With this one, there wasn't really anything else that significant other than it just looks kind of cool. Some people were pointing out that the way that the building is that has that graffiti on it kind of looks the way that a lot of the buildings in the DZ or the wall of the DZ looked. So there's some thought that may be part of the wall, that building maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. That's a thing I don't think we have figured out that much about yet. There was a bunch of other stuff released. There was a really cool nighttime shot released with the White House in the background, kind of lit up. It looks like it's in like a setup for, like, it looked like it was like a where they were selling trinkets and stuff. There's a like a White House ornament stand in the background. There's a couple civilians picking through the trash, and there's a drone up above. There's nothing too significant on here that I noticed. One of the division agents that you see has a sheriff badge on the backpack that they're wearing. So far we've seen that there's an armband that has the Shade logo in it. We know that we have the little trinkets that can hang from your backpack, but I'm wondering if this is maybe telling us that either this type of backpack has that sheriff badge on it, that's how you identify it, or that maybe we'll have some kind of patch or something that we can put on our backpacks. Maybe there's gonna be other ways you can customize the equipment that you're using. I don't know. We will we'll have to see. This is just a really cool shot. It kind of reminds me that while I know people are gonna miss the snow effects and stuff like that of Division 1, I still think we're gonna get some really beautiful like views and some stuff to look at in Division 2. I think it's just gonna be different. The screenshots that really interested me, and not really one in particular, but was the ones that weren't just concept art, but that were actual screenshots from the game. And the main reason they interested me, and there's a bunch of them, you should just look at them in general, is that if you remember back when they first released the Division trailers back in 2013, there was, you know, like the streets are just full of junk and trash, and it just looked so full. And then when the game actually came out, a lot of people commented about how reduced that was and how empty it kind of felt. And that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism. I still think it looks pretty damn good. But that said, I'll say from looking at the actual screenshots from the game, it does look like they've kind of fully fulfilled that original idea. I suspect it has a lot to do with the upgraded engine, with them just being more familiar with the game and how they can use the engine and stuff like that. But I will say, just from in general, from all the actual screenshots they released, between the vegetation, the trash, just the world building in general, just looks really, really, really cool. I'm excited to see how it ends up. To wrap things up here, I'm going to talk about some gaming news. So we have Battlefield 5 coming. We have Red Dead Redemption 2 and Fallout 76 and Black Ops 4 all coming. Those are games I'm actually all interested in, and I've been really kind of racking my brain about like which ones I'm actually going to play. I think I'm probably going to go with BF5 and Red Dead for sure. I'll say that I want to play the demo of Fallout. I love the Fallout games very, very dearly, but I'm still a little worried it won't really be my thing. Black Ops 4, that may be like a later purchase for me. I really enjoyed the beta. I thought it played really well. It reminded me of some of the fun I used to have in the non-Skyboy fly around Call of Duties. And maybe. That one's a maybe for me. I have kind of talked about, and my mind very well may change on this, but I've really gotten to the point, especially after looking back at some information on it, I just have no desire to get Anthem anymore. Maybe that will change. That'd be cool if it did, you know. I'm not against changing my mind on that if something really blows my mind. But I really went back and I tried to look at some stuff about Anthem and just knowing kind of how much hype is going to be going on for Division 2 when that releases. I just don't care. It really kind of killed hype for me. It really just ended up not being as interesting as I hoped it would be. And at this point, I kind of just think maybe it'll be better than I think, and I genuinely hope it is for the people who are really excited for that game. But I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna do it. You know, but we'll see. The last thing is, second to last thing is World War III has been getting a lot of talk lately, probably from people getting paid to talk about it. But essentially, if you haven't seen it, it basically looks like a updated Battlefield 4. It's being done by a fairly small studio in Poland, so it's not EA, it's not DICE, for better or worse. But it looks interesting, and the way that they're doing a lot of the mechanics in the game is it's kind of like Battlefield 4 taking the next step when it comes to gear and stuff like that, but not being like all the way into Arma. But it does have mechanics like being able to load out your character however you want, but you get punished for being too heavy by being slow and stuff like that. So I'm really curious to see how that game's gonna work out, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. It's gonna be in early access on Steam, so I wouldn't be surprised if I end up you know, getting in there and testing it out and doing it on stream a bit. Now the last thing is Dead Cells. I was inspired by seeing a few people talking about it, playing it. That game is really fun. For $25, I think it's a really good way to waste some of your time right now. I will say that it's extremely frustrating the way that it's set up. But it's supposed to be. And I really do encourage you, if you got 25 extra bucks, I bought it on Xbox. If you're gonna stream it, I actually suggest getting it on Steam, because there's Twitch integration where the people watching can actually impact the game while you're playing it. Xbox does not have that, at least not right now. It doesn't. But yeah, Dead Cells, I highly suggest checking it out. It will both be very fun, satisfying, and extremely frustrating. That's what I have this week. Next week, like I said, and the following week, I'm going to split some of my conversation with Deep Fried Dave about lore in Division 1 and 2. We had some really fun talks about that. Next weekend, for Labor Day, I'm actually going to be in Chicago with my wife. It's going to be her birthday. We're gonna do some stuff, and we're gonna go on a little trip. So I will not be streaming next weekend. I may stream on like Labor Day because we're gonna come back and do nothing. But yeah, so just don't be surprised if you don't see. I'm even thinking about turning off my Twitter, logging out, and just enjoying the weekend with just her and I. So, I'll be updating on that, but be on the lookout for that. That said, if you have questions that you want me to answer on here, or if you have topics that you want me to cover, go ahead and ask me on Twitter or Discord. You should see the links for those below. If you want to check out the EchoCast and other places, I don't know where you're listening to it now. It is on Anchor, iTunes, and SoundCloud. I also post the episodes on my YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch as Bond Diesel. You can find me on Instagram as BondDiesel_Twitch. And if you would like to support me in some particular way, you can do it via Twitch while I'm streaming, or you can do it through the Anchor link. So please check it out. That's what I have for you this week. This was the EchoCast. I am Bond Diesel, and until next time.